Hong, and Elizabeth. We're so excited to host this AMA and fireside chat about Lightning specifically. We here at Okcoin, my name's Jason. I'm COO here at Okcoin. We here at Okcoin just launched Lightning support a few days ago, and we're super excited about it. And this AMA is part of our efforts to broaden awareness, as well as to let everyone understand all the magic that Lightning can do. And before we dive into our chat, I just want to show everyone a quick, hopefully 30-second demo of how amazing Lightning is. And I'm just going to share my screen here, if you don't mind. Let's see. Can you guys see this, by the way?
Yep.
Okay, cool. And so I'm just going to do a quick deposit using Bitcoin into Okcoin with Lightning. Select Bitcoin, Lightning Network, click Continue, and just enter an amount. Tiny amount of Bitcoin. As you know, Lightning uses a invoice system, which is a little different from how Bitcoin addresses work. I copy the invoice and I go over to my wallet, Blue Wallet, which supports Lightning also. I have a tiny amount of Bitcoin in here. Send it. Paste the invoice in. 200 Satoshis, which is about 10 cents. Potential fee about 0 to 3 Satoshis. Hit pay. And this should take anywhere between 3 to 10 seconds. Let's see how it turns out. And there we go. Done.
Awesome. The check mark is always like the great feeling of like it's accomplished.
I know it worked. And let's go back to the website here. Okcoin, I'm in my test account here. Just hit refresh. And there it is. The 200 Satoshi showed up, and you're ready to do whatever you want to do with it. So yeah, just a 30-second preview of how Lightning works. It's been amazing working with your team, Elizabeth, to get this up and running. So we're super excited, and we still have more plans to come. So without further ado, I would love to pass this off to Hong. It's also great to have this today on International Women's Day, to have both of you, influential crypto female leaders here. So I'll pass it off to you, Hong and Elizabeth.
Thank you. Thanks, Jason. Yeah, it's total coincidence to schedule this conversation on this day. But I'm super thrilled to have Elizabeth here. Elizabeth is one of my favorite leaders in crypto community, and your team are building fantastic things to build crypto ecosystem. And I think two of us and our team share a very strong passion for building crypto and particularly bringing it to the next billion people, making it really a kind of a money of people and by people. And I think over the last 12 months, because of COVID and because of everything else going on, Bitcoin as a store of value, as a class, as a valid asset class is really establishing its position in the world, and that rhetoric is really establishing, gaining momentum. But I think in addition to that, I think there's a lot of other things going on that will continue to build Bitcoin and bring it to the next stage. And I feel like as part of it, Lightning is going to be a very critical, important piece in that world. So I would love to, Elizabeth, I know that you have been a leader in building a Lightning ecosystem on top of Bitcoin. And I would love to hear what you think about how we can further bring Bitcoin to the next billion people. How does Lightning enable that? And what are the recent progress you're seeing and some of the challenges that you're seeing in that progress?
Yeah, definitely. And by the way, that's a question that I could probably spend hours on. So we'll get to some parts of that.
Take your time.
First,
yes.
I want to thank you guys, Hong, Jason. You guys have become my good internet friends. Really looking forward to hanging out IRL at some point in the not too distant future, and kind of the Bitcoin community bands together and all of that. Yeah, so I mean, the last year has been somewhat of a whirlwind, like lots of ups, lots of downs, a real roller coaster. But one narrative that has definitely emerged is that of Bitcoin, the asset, right? Bitcoin is a store of value, digital gold, or as I like to call it, a digital rock. And to me, that was the first killer app of Bitcoin. People that are looking for, an alternative store of wealth, people that want to invest, that see the upside potential, especially with all that's going on in the macroeconomic environment. And by the way, shout out to Lynn Alden. If folks follow her research, she's also been getting into Bitcoin and Lightning, but has been doing amazing work. I've been reading a lot about it on the macro.
Yeah, she's great. I read a lot. She's great.
Yeah. So we have this broader climate going on, with everything with COVID and the macroeconomic side. And Bitcoin makes sense to people as this store of value. But the way that I think of it is, we have the two elements of Bitcoin. We have Bitcoin, the asset, and Bitcoin, the network, right? And what we're really working on at Lightning Labs is building out the potential for Bitcoin as a monetary network, right? Today, if I want to send a photo to somebody in any application, I do that. It's interoperable. It's not like I need a different standard. It's not that I can only send a photo to my friends in the US using one app. I can't even really send it to people using, in Argentina or in India. It just works. But why don't we have the same for money? I mean, it sounds so obvious, but it's kind of like if in the early days of the internet, instead of using email, you still had to send people postal mail because email was blocked off or didn't work. That's what our monetary system is like today. So why don't we have natively embedded value on the internet, just internet native digital transactions? And that's really what we're building with both Bitcoin and Lightning. So when I actually first heard about Bitcoin, I'd always wondered, why can't you just build payments natively into the web? We had Tim Berners-Lee and the creators of the early internet. They had this 402 error code in the early 90s, envisioning that you would be able to natively embed this. But for a variety of reasons, the timing just wasn't yet right back then. And it really took a decentralized asset like Bitcoin that could natively be built into the internet for this to emerge. So, what I think of today is in the community, we hear a lot about number go up, right? Number go up technology. Well, what we're working on is number of people go up in terms of lives impacted by Bitcoin, number of people using Bitcoin. And that's what I'm really passionate about right now. And if we're going to bring this technology to the next billion, which, by the way, is a big theme of mine for the year and the coming years, and we actually, Lightning Labs, we actually have a newsletter out today with that title. So very great timing. Credit to my great team who's been working on that. What we need is technology that can bring it to, the masses, that can enable more than, 5 to 10 transactions per second, that can enable instant or near instant transacting, that can have really low fees. I know we'll get to all of that. So with Bitcoin, we're presented this massive opportunity. You have this highly secure, the most secure cryptocurrency out there, base layer. But much like the internet, the way that you had TCP/IP and then HTTP was a protocol that was built on top of it, and we have all the web applications that exist today, we needed this layer 2, which is Lightning, is the standard the Bitcoin community has really agreed upon as a protocol for the application layer of Bitcoin and really the technology to bring Bitcoin to the billion people. So by the way, there's a lot there, but where do we want to go? What questions do you want to go to from there?
So I think that among the audience, maybe some people are familiar with Lightning and some people are probably not that familiar with Lightning. Maybe in a very simple way, describe how Lightning, in your mind, how Lightning can actually help build, take Bitcoin to the next level, to the next billion people, right?
For sure.
And then what are the key progress you're seeing in the last, say, 12 months in Lightning Network, in the growth of that network? Because, for a network to really roll out, I think the scale, the connectivity is going to be really important. I'm sure there are a lot of other stuff that you're seeing in the background, interesting thing coming up, or, some challenges that come up that your team is dealing with on a daily basis.
Yeah, for sure. So Lightning is a software layer that operates on top of Bitcoin. We call it a layer 2. And it uses the security of the base Bitcoin network. But unlike with Bitcoin, where every transaction has to be in global consensus with all the other transactions on the blockchain, that is the nature of a blockchain, Lightning enables local consensus between participants. So participants transacting in Lightning can agree with each other. And then eventually, if they need to go back to the Bitcoin blockchain, they actually can rely on that security of the chain. One analogy I sometimes use is Lightning is somewhat like a decentralized Visa network. It's funny because no analogy is ever perfect, but in that sense, the idea is it's a transaction layer that's atop of Bitcoin. But unlike Visa, you don't have a trusted party. It is an open protocol that anybody can participate in. So that's really what makes it this, internet of the money kind of technology, right? Monetary network. So on the Bitcoin chain, we have today about 5 to 10 transactions per second, thanks to segregated witness. Block times are on average 10 minutes. And then as many folks know, fees can spike with the fee market. It's market-based, it depends on demand. The mempool, which is kind of the storage of all the transactions people are submitting to Bitcoin, has not cleared. I mean, it's been very full lately, meaning that there's a lot of demand for people to transact. So enter Lightning, where on the layer 2, you can have instant or near instant transacting, many thousands of transactions per second. We've seen tests in the tens, if not, potential hundreds of thousands of transactions per second. And then fees can be quite low, minimal. You can send 1 Satoshi on Lightning. And you can have fees that are even less than that, which is wild. If you think about today, if I were to use the existing credit card networks, I can't send less than a cent. And people even ask, okay, well, why would you want that? Well, you can do very high volume transactions. Machines can transact with other machines, so on and so forth. So what Lightning does is it creates this scalability technology, but also one with low fees with speed, and that is easy to build upon. And to me, this is really key. Building an application on the Bitcoin base layer, if you're an exchange, that makes perfect sense. But if you want to say embed Bitcoin in video games, you don't want to have to wait 10 minutes for a transaction, right? Or if you want to say, give your customers reward sats back, or if you say want to earn Bitcoin and just receive it for performing certain tasks. So the speed and the ability to build on top of this technology is a key part of it. Okay, so in the last year, so much has happened. It's really hard to keep up. And we have an amazing team we built out. By the way, I should also mention Lightning Labs is an infrastructure company. We're building this technology for developers to build on top of the Lightning Network. We build technology called LND, which is an implementation of Lightning. There are quite a few others out there, including Eclair, Blockstream C Lightning, and several others. And it is a protocol. So people are transacting. Anybody can build their own implementation of Lightning, and then anybody can build on top of it. So yeah, in the past year, what we've seen is a whole host of use cases have popped up. And one of the things that I love is a lot of these use cases, you're kind of like, wow, is somebody really going to build this? And then they did. And so video games have become a really big sector. A lot of people were stuck at home. They wanted to do fun things with their time. Credit to Mint Gox, the Zebedee team, Thunder Games, Satoshi's Games, and Donner Lab, and quite a few others. There are all these entrepreneurs building games, including Zebedee recently released a product called Infuse. They're a gaming company for Counter-Strike Go, where you can actually play Counter-Strike and earn sats. I mean, who doesn't want to earn sats?
Very cool.
There are a whole host of tournaments. Thunder Games had over 100,000 downloads of their gaming suite recently for people that want to transact natively in video games. So this has been a really exciting development, and we've seen that grow throughout the last year. Then of course, everyone loves, trading. That we are, Bitcoin, the assets become a big deal. So exchanges like you guys have started to integrate it, which has been incredible to see the uptake and really enabling this economy. There are a variety of other use cases of people that want, say, derivatives trading or building technologies on top of Lightning that can enable something called discrete log contracts, so kind of smart contracts on Lightning. Other types of assets has been an interesting use case, one that we call LiFi. So it's Lightning Finance. So that's been really exciting to see. Another one that I really like is communications media chat. So there's a cool app called Sphinx. Check it out, sphinx.chat, where you can embed payments with your chat messages. You're actually sending chat over the Lightning Network, which I think is super cool. And now they recently have had the father of podcasting, named Adam Curry create something called Podcasting 2.0, where podcasters can actually receive sats, and fans and end users can actually stream sats and pay the podcasters in Satoshis while they're listening. And this is also embedded into the Sphinx chat up. I was just listening to Stacey Herbert and Max Kaiser's podcast where they're on Sphinx and they're getting sats from their users and getting streaming sats, which has been really cool to see. So that's just an example of some of the many use cases we've seen emerge over the past year, which has been really exciting.
Any constraints that you see some of these use cases running into in terms of scalability or any other situations that the community is trying to resolve?
Yeah, look, this technology is evolving, and it's, again, over the past year, for example, there was the Wumbo channel. So for those that are not familiar, Wumbo is a term derived from SpongeBob. Credit to our CTO and my co-founder Lalo, who is really into SpongeBob. It means basically jumbo large. So these larger channels that are called Wumbo channels were actually just enabled on our L&D implementation at the end of the summer, I believe August 2020, and some of the other implementations had it in 2020, but before then, you didn't have, say, very large amount transacted on the network. And even today, because it is newer technology, this is a protocol, and this stuff does not happen overnight. This is a very long-term project. The way that I think of it is, we're in a marathon, not a sprint. And the Bitcoin community has a very different philosophy, I'd say, than a lot of what we see out there in terms of we're really looking at the 10-year time horizon in terms of global impact, and building a protocol that will be hardened, does take time. So for a while, there were issues around, larger channels and people that wanted to send larger amounts. It was harder. That is improving with the addition of greater Wumbo channels. By the way, what is for Okcoin? What's the max you guys have today?
We have right now 11 Bitcoin, I think, in our channel.
Oh no, but I mean per user transaction.
Oh, I think it's 0.5 Bitcoin.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty substantial. But again, so for folks that want to transact, it's still geared toward smaller amounts. And then another big, I'd say, area in the community that many of us have spent a lot of time on is this question of liquidity. So the nature of Lightning is you have low fees, super scalable transactions and really fast, times, but you do have this requirement for what we call inbound or outbound liquidity because Lightning uses a technology called payment channels. We think of those as like tubes of money, where you either need to send people money through this tube. And for example, if I want to send money to Jason and I'm connected to you, Hong, I send my money on Lightning through you to Jason, and then Jason's the recipient. But if I want to receive from Jason, I actually need in what we call inbound liquidity or inbound capacity, the ability to receive funds. So that is one thing that we actually have two products at Lightning Labs that we built out to address this requirement of the network. One is called Lightning Loop. It's an on and off ramp, helps people refill their channels and either send out or receive additional money. And another one is called Pool. We basically have Loop and Pool. And that is supposed to be kind of like a liquidity pool where people can actually buy and sell channels. So you're creating a marketplace for people to place liquidity on the network and either earn a return and earn a yield on their Bitcoin, or pay somebody else for putting up capital, because folks don't always want to put up all the capital themselves. So at the end of the day, people say, okay, well, the end user, this is a lot for them to know, and they shouldn't have to know about it. And that's really the goal that we want to get to. And we're making great strides. But usability does take time. There was recently a tweet that I really liked from one of the, I think it was Documenting Bitcoin account that said, if people think Bitcoin is complicated, ask them how the credit card system or the Federal Reserve works or something. It's like,
I saw that too. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, those are quite complicated, and we don't know, or even, at the end of the day, I think we use email, or well, some generations still use email, some others maybe less so these days. But many people don't know that they're using SMTP or the underlying protocols or the internet and TCP/IP, right? So there are all these base layer protocols that people don't necessarily know about. And I do believe that in the future, the vast majority of users that are using both Bitcoin and Lightning probably will not even know that they're using it. It'll be natively embedded in their applications, in their mobile devices, in their computers, and it may even show up in, with the fiat value of what they're doing, but they're going to be sending their transactions through Bitcoin and Lightning.
Yeah. Those are great. I actually have just two questions. One is probably more a kind of layman question, and the other I would like to hear what you have on your mind. The first layman question is, when we think about, you mentioned that Lightning compared to Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is in itself is still a very early stage, although, I think the validness of it being the store of value, being the sound money is being established and going mainstream. So it's not.
By the way, it's weird because we haven't been mainstream. I think we're still not that mainstream, and that we have a lot of haters. And I like the haters. Bring on the haters. But go on.
Yes, we need to have debate to make it spiral.
Exactly.
But compared to Bitcoin, I think Lightning is probably even at an even earlier stage. So when we think about, for example, the Bitcoin network, healthiness of Bitcoin network, there are certain metrics that we look at. If we look at Lightning network, how would you evaluate, what the progress has been, how healthy it is, what kind of things we want to see it grow over time? And then the second question I have is, again, from where you're sitting here, to bring it to the next step, right? Make it almost like a invisible protocol layer where people just use and a lot of things get abstracted out of it. What are the things that we're still missing here? What need to happen in the next, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year to help us get there?
Yeah, great question. So the first one is one that I think in the community and even internally inside our company at Lightning Labs, we're having a lot of great discussions about, like, which metrics do we want to use? So there are public metrics around funds that are in public channels. Now, I will note that not many users are using private channels. So what public channels are they're actually advertising to the network that they want to route payments. So they're saying, hi, I'm running a node, I'm here, and I want people to route their payments through me, and then I take a small fee for that. And there are fees on Lightning, they're just much lower than on chain and will continue to be so. And then there are public nodes, and then there's capital on the network. So as of today, it's over 50 million in USD value. I think it's something like 1,100. I looked last night. BTC, there's a website called 1ml.com that tracks some of these. But I don't think that's such a great metric, because what really we're interested in is what are people transacting? What is adoption looking like, right? And the nature of Lightning is we don't actually know all the transactions, and that's the great thing. It has great privacy features. I know Alex Gladstein over at the Human Rights Foundation's really passionate about Bitcoin and Lightning for human rights use cases, for people in authoritarian regimes and things like that. So basically, we have things like, okay, how many companies have adopted it? How many exchanges, things like that. And I know that we at Lightning Labs have seen at least 150 companies and startups that are working on this, and I'm sure there are others, and that's gone 5x over the past year. So a year ago, that was 30. So that's really exciting. And then we also see stats. So for example, Thunder Games getting 100K downloads. We see folks like Strike Global Fold, Bitrefill, others hitting like record volumes and gaming and things like that. We see LN Markets, one of the trading companies. The numbers are definitely going up in that regard. And then we see number of nodes on the network. But again, the ones that we see on these explorers are public nodes, and that has been growing quite substantially over the past year as well. One of the things that we're working on internally at Lightning Labs is also ensuring that people that are running nodes, so these are enthusiasts, developers, companies, can actually have high quality nodes. So there's this metric called the BOS score, named after one of our devs, Alex Bosworth, that we built for folks running LNG, that can assess the quality. Does a node have good connectivity? Is there good uptime? So actually, one of the things I'm really interested in is getting more high quality nodes. When people want to set these up, they can actually optimize them. And we see from our community a lot, people ask, okay, I'm setting up a node. How do I open channels? How do I get good connectivity? And we want to help developers and users with that. Now, mind you, the end user is likely not going to do that. I mean, they're welcome to, and we have a lot of really amazing folks in the Bitcoin community that run full nodes, and many of those are and will continue to run Lightning nodes and additionally, but this is more of a developer thing. So at Lightning Labs, one of our major priorities for this year is to increase access to developer resources, tutorials. We have a lot coming down the line, really making it easier to build on Bitcoin and Lightning and making that a better experience for those devs who then bring it to that billion people and bring it to the end users. So yeah, in terms of metrics, I think we've definitely seen a lot of numbers go up. We're tracking things from the community, we're tracking the public stats, and we're continuing to find interesting metrics and ways to track things. But I think high quality nodes, number of companies building, and then gathering data from the community members has been really helpful in that regard. Okay, that was question one.
I have some questions on that question one answer, but go ahead to your question.
Oh, okay. Do you want to
Probably
quickly,
follow up.
before we get to question two, do you want to just ask your questions on question one?
No, question two, fine. I'll try to remember those questions and see if I can follow up later.
Okay, so question two is about the challenges.
Yeah, what do you think we're still missing if we want to in the next 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 years try to kind of scale the Lightning and make it part of the invisible protocol, right? That can be abstracted away.
This is something that I've been thinking about a lot lately as well. I do believe there's just an element of evolution and time it takes to really build these core protocols of the internet. And I believe Bitcoin and Lightning are in the class of core internet protocols. If you look at, say, 1969 and the earliest days of the ARPANET, I mean, the internet didn't even reach the mainstream until the early 90s. Well, that was the early majority or the early adopters even. And then maybe even the mainstream in like the late 90s, 00. So these things just take time. We're on somewhat of an accelerated path. I mean, development in Lightning really started in earnest in like early 2016. A few folks might have done a little bit, including us, late 2015. But yeah, some of this stuff really just takes time to build out. So the amount of progress we've seen has both been incredible in terms of the adoption, in terms of what people have been building, in terms of all the use cases. But it's not like a brand new financial protocol just, happens overnight. And we saw the same with Bitcoin. In fact, Satoshi released the white paper on Halloween, October 31st, 2008, and then, launched the network 3rd January 2009. I actually wonder, I don't think there's data where we know how long Satoshi was working on the code base. Of course, the developers after the fact, the Bitcoin Core folks have, modified the code, improved it, rewritten much of that original code base since then. So similarly, I think there's just a natural progression of time where as we keep building out the protocol and hardening it and making it more secure and making it more accessible, and making it more usable, it's easier for developers to build upon. I also think we will see other abstractions like having APIs that make it easier to build on top of Lightning. In fact, a shout out to Will O'Byrne, a developer who's built a plugin called a browser extension called Joule. And Lalu, our CTO, and a few other members of the community were talking about web APIs. WebLN is one of them that Will built out for Lightning. So building out better APIs, ensuring that the protocol just evolves and that the features are present, that it's hardened, that it's secure. I mean, the way that I think about it, on the Bitcoin base layer, the developers have taken an approach that's not move fast and break things. Yeah. It's proceed cautiously and build a secure base layer, because Bitcoin security at the base layer is of utmost importance. And by the way, shout out to my friend Neha Narula over at MIT DCI. This is something that I know is near and dear to her heart, and she's been working tirelessly together with Taj and quite a few others on Bitcoin security over at MIT.
Yeah,
on the Lightning side, we're not, breaking things, but we can move faster, and we can actually build this layer 2 where developers can build these applications, and we don't actually have to deal with the consensus rules that are on the Bitcoin base layer. So it's also easier to have multiple implementations, which we do have on Lightning. So, there is some degree of being able to move faster, but this is still core foundational protocol technology. So we do take security really seriously. And that's why we had those limits in place, until later in the year 2020. And even today, we're saying don't put massive amounts on Lightning, especially if you're new to this, just start with a smaller amount, get involved and go from there. And then also usability. Shout out to my friend Meltem Demir. She recently wrote a very interesting Substack newsletter on UX and Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And she talked about how we see in design and user experience. She actually had this really interesting screenshot of apps today. They all look the same. It's like there's no difference. And she said that we have a new design space, which we do, and it's really exciting, especially in the Bitcoin world. We don't have to conform to the prior norms of design. And I think that's really powerful. And we don't want to have our apps all look like every other app. And like even all the logos look the same now. We've just become, the design space has become the degree of sameness. So we don't want to be that in our community. We want to be able to explore with new and interesting areas of design, but at the same time, usability is of the utmost importance. So that's another area that I think we'll see emerge in the next few years that will just improve to abstract the complexity, right? So by the way, one of the things that I always think about is how do we abstract this for the end user? And we will absolutely get there. And just think about the early days of the internet, people were using command line tools. You know, they had their various email applications, something like Pine back in the day. And now it's abstracted and there are these shiny, slick applications that all look the same, basically, but that remove that from the end user. And I believe, although we can experiment with our new design space, that we will also have a situation in which this complexity is abstracted from the end user and it just works. So yeah, at the end of the day, it's infrastructure and we're building it out as quickly as we can. By the way, we're hiring at Lightning Labs. I know quite a lot of the other companies in our space are too. There's never been a better time to work in Bitcoin. Things are really exciting. We're building the future. But yeah, it's basically a question of just building things out and enabling the progression that we've already seen emerge.
Yeah, and by the way, I would say Lightning Labs are great. We have been working with your team on our integration, and your team are extremely well.
Thank you guys.
So yeah. So two follow-up questions. One is you mentioned you actually talk about the developer, right? Basically the protocol level need some time to grow and evolve, and that is a result of having high quality developers and more developers coming around and really focus on it. We recently announced our sponsorship of Okcoin, who is also a Bitcoin core developer and a Lightning developer, and he also shared the same sentiment with us as well, basically commenting on the importance of that. And one thing that he noted, which I think is interesting, I want to hear your thoughts on that. Basically, just because of the early stage nature of Lightning community and including the developer community in itself, he noticed that there are certain different groups of developers in Lightning Network community that if going forward we can find a way to really foster communication on the broader scale among Lightning developers, it will be even it would probably be helpful to help kind of find the consensus, or maybe to your point, there doesn't need to be a consensus on that being different from the Bitcoin core. So
by the way, I mean, congratulations to Antoine, and you guys are amazing in supporting the community. I think that was such an awesome effort, and I believe you're supporting several other Bitcoin developers, if I'm correct, as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we have another 4.
Wow. Okay. That's amazing news. Antoine has done such great work in the community. He's done great work around security, around protocol development. So really exciting to see him get that support and for you guys to be excellent stewards in the Bitcoin community. So in terms of the Lightning developers, there are a few groups as well. And this is one thing I've actually said for a long time. They're the application developers who are building the end user apps that are really bringing this technology to the billion people, hopefully more. And then you have the protocol developer community. And those are the folks that are building the base layer of the protocol itself. Quite a lot of my colleagues at Lightning Labs. And as mentioned, we have the variety of other implementations, C Lightning, Eclair. Some folks are working on Ptarmigan, there's Rust Lightning, etc. So we have actually a standards process called the BOLT, Basis of Lightning Technology protocol, that Rusty Russell over at Blockstream has worked tirelessly on that. Christian Decker, Lisa over there, Lisa Nagut, Lalu and my team, Connor, etc. The folks at Eclair as well. So we have this community that has been participating in this process of building out this standard for Lightning. That people, that are coming to the community that either want to build on top of it or that want to build an implementation. adhere to and contribute to and give their feedback on. So we do have that process. But I don't know if there's anything in particular he wanted to discuss. Do we know if there's at the end of the day, it's Bitcoin developers, so everyone's always going to have like a fun debate discussion. Is there any specific issue that he was
No. It was just a
maybe
conversation, and I brought it up, and then there are different groups of developers in Lightning, but I didn't drill into what those specific situations are.
It's funny because when you think back to the history of Bitcoin, and I've been talking to a lot of folks, I have a friend who's actually writing a book right now on 2017, the block size wars, No 2X, things seem relatively calm in the developer world. I mean, there is currently a debate on activation of Taproot going on in the developer community, but it is much calmer and more chilled out than I'd say the previous times.
The major discussion over
2017. So yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, people are passionate. That's what we love about this community.
Yeah.
Getting all Bitcoiners to agree, like, good luck.
It's good. It's good to disagree,
Bitcoin.
right? It's good to actually have different opinions.
You want engaging sustained debate.
Yeah.
But certainly things were very different. And even recounting a lot of the stories from 2017, to my friend that's researching this. Actually, I know some other folks that are researching it. I think a couple of people are documenting this and trying to write books, but that was a wild time. And I encourage those that were around back then to definitely talk to these researchers and to document it, because it is part of history. And we'll look back in those days and say, wow, Bitcoin came out stronger. And that, this is a good amount of why we have what we have today, because Bitcoin was able to sustain.
We're still in the middle of making history, I think.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's a lot more history to be made. Oh, and by the way, Lynn Alden had some great conversations with her, and she actually said it was after the 2x debacle and when Bitcoin went out and the community strengthened that her conviction increased in Bitcoin, because she saw that it wasn't susceptible to, say, takeover of a few, and that the community at large was able to maintain, I'd say, Bitcoin, the network, and Bitcoin YASA.
Yeah, I think there's an interesting way that that when you work in the grassroots fashion, it looks chaotic, but somehow it works out.
Totally.
Works its way through. So that's great. So do you see in the last in this coming, or actually current bull run, do you see increasing interest in from developer community coming and joining Lightning?
Oh yeah. I mean, this is always what happens. And it's funny because it feels like we've been here before, but this time is different. You have both of those scenarios. So yeah, in the 2017, bull run, there was a huge amount of interest. A lot more people wanted to get involved, more developers. Also, people realize that they want to work full-time. People that have been enthusiasts on the side. We see that a lot. They're basically like, now is the time to join Bitcoin. So now is definitely the time to join and get involved if you've been considering going full-time, because if you really love this, and I know we have a lot of enthusiasts, a lot of really passionate people in the community, like the whole laser eye meme. There are so many memes that just propagate throughout Bitcoin Twitter. There's never been a better time. There's so much excitement going on. And we definitely see that trickle down to developers. In fact, our last newsletter was about the new wave of Bitcoin developers that has come on board, and we want to build out the resources and the tutorials, and we've already started with that, and we'll be continuing to do more of that. We actually, just stay tuned, had some new team members join at Lightning Labs to help us out with that, and that's a major priority for us, and I think in the broader Lightning community as well, to really create resources, make it easier for developers to build on this tech and to integrate. And by the way, I will mention, we had these early calls with Okcoin, but it wasn't that long ago. And you guys did an incredible job. And I remember you sent us an email and you were like, okay, we've integrated it. And we were like, wow, so that's amazing.
Well, kudos to your team as well. They have been really helpful.
Props to your team. And I mean, you guys like moving forward, lightning fast in terms of
we try our best. Let me actually ask you one last question, I think, in interest time, and then we can open up to the questions from the community. So I think, again, I agree with you that building Lightning is a community work. It takes a whole more than army to actually build everyone in the ecosystem, every stakeholder participating in and actually building different connection points, building different use cases, and so whatnot. So from our perspective as an exchange, as a platform, I think we are super excited that we are finally able to actually integrate Lightning into our network to enable that deposit and withdraw through Lightning network. But I'm wondering from what you're seeing, is there anything else? What are the other stuff that you think players like us can do to help cultivate and build the ecosystem? And I'm also personally very interested in I lied. This is 2 questions. I'm sorry for 2 questions. What else are you seeing that's happening in the emerging markets, right? Because I think the dynamic use cases can be very different for Lightning or even for Bitcoin in developed countries and developing countries. And what are the interesting things that you're seeing there? Anything there that we can be helpful?
Okay, we can spend like hours talking about
I'm sorry.
these things. No, and I know we want to get to questions from the audience. No, the emerging market, not even that it's a use case, it's just a massive opportunity, is one that is absolutely near and dear to my heart. So shout out to Paxful. They have announced and tweeted that they are working on Lightning integration. They enable cross-border payments. Strike Global and Jack Mullers has become, a huge, I'd say, leader in the Lightning community in terms of what he's building, and very cool because he's with Strike Global, he's really building the Lightning as the protocol for value, where the end user is transacting from fiat to fiat, and it's Bitcoin and Lightning that's underlying those transactions. That really gets to my theory that I've been saying for years now, that a lot of users may not even know that they're using this technology, much like they don't know they're using SMTP when they're sending an email. Absolutely love what they're doing. I believe they have trials in El Salvador. Bitcoin Beach is an incredible project of a community in El Salvador where people are living on a circular economy with Bitcoin and Lightning. I recently met some of these folks on Clubhouse, which is really cool to hear. We did a session with Ray from Paxful, the Bitcoin Beach folks, Brekivam Bitcoin, and quite a few other Bitcoiners, Bernard in Nigeria, and quite a few other folks in Venezuela and whatnot. So I absolutely love this use case, because sometimes when we're in, the US or Europe or wherever, we don't realize like there's a huge portion of the world that doesn't, like the idea of a credit card is just not something that they use in their day-to-day lives, or even, digital payments you might have in a given, say, economy. But then when you want to do cross-border payments, if you want to send $100, your fees might be $20. I mean, that's 20%, which is insane. So to me, I actually see that a lot of this, next billion people will be in this, in these emerging markets. Nigeria is a great example. Shout out also to Lalu, my co-founder, who is actually Nigerian American, and I know is connected to folks, with his family in Nigeria and whatnot. But there's a huge use case. Something like 32% of Nigerians, which is wild in terms of a survey recently, have said that they've used Bitcoin in the past. I know if folks have followed what's going on there, the government has actually tried to block certain Bitcoin and cryptocurrency related big transactions, but for peer-to-peer use cases, luckily, that has not been as much of an issue because you can't easily identify it. So kind of the people are fighting back in terms of what's going on there in the government. So we have quite a few Bitcoin startups there that I'm really excited about, really great entrepreneurs. Latin America, there are massive use cases there, Asia, Southeast Asia, of course, China, India, absolutely massive opportunities. And one thing that we're seeing is more and more folks right now are adopting Lightning. For example, Bitcoin Namibia, the local exchange in Namibia, integrated Lightning payments, VBTC in Vietnam, Vietnam's oldest exchange, integrating Lightning payments, and so many more are, in process, which has been incredible to see. Also, shout out to Stack, STAK work.com. They have a really big user base in the Philippines, and they're growing in Latin America. People can earn Bitcoin over Lightning. By the way, people think of Lightning and Bitcoin for spending, and then in the developed world, people say, well, why would I want to spend it? But actually, you can earn Bitcoin over Lightning. And I love this use case. Like, who doesn't want to stack more sats and earn more Bitcoin? So on Stack, people can perform small tasks and pay off a phone bill or even earn enough money for a smartphone, in like, say, 15 or 30 minutes a day using Bitcoin, which I think is extremely powerful, that now anybody around the world has the capacity to earn money, and they're not constrained by, say, in some economies you have hyperinflation or the massive costs that would be involved in international money transfer. And to me, we're only at the beginning of this. It's extremely powerful, and we'll see more and more people earn across these emerging markets around the world. So yes, that is one of my favorite examples. I could talk for hours about it. Also, shout out to Matt Alberg, usefultulips.org. He's been doing really great data work around peer-to-peer transactions using Bitcoin. He's been following Lightning a lot, and he's tracked what's going on in a lot of these emerging markets. So yeah, a lot of really exciting stuff there. Okay, so I know we want to get to the audience questions. Your next question, what can you do? Well, first of all, you've already funded developers, so that's incredible. You guys are definitely ahead of the curve. I encourage folks that are Bitcoin companies out there that want to give back to fund developers in the community, or donate to a lot of the great initiatives and efforts that are out there now. Educational resources, it sounds like you're working on that as well. I mean, you guys, again, are completely ahead of the curve. I'd say also highlighting some of the really cool use cases on Lightning, because at the end of the day, people want to know what can I do with my funds on Lightning? In many cases, if you want to buy things, say, on Fold or Bitrefill, or use other exchanges or trading applications, there's a lot that you can do already on Lightning where you don't go back to the Bitcoin chain, and that will only increase massively. So I'd say educating folks, promoting those use cases. Hopefully we will have a Lightning conference again. We had an incredible event, 500 community members, developers in October 2019. It seems like a lifetime ago in Berlin. So really
getting a year, Elizabeth, it's been a year since the lockdown.
I know. I think we're in like a March, like, what is it? Like 373 or something. It's like, I don't even know what day it is.
Yeah. I think it's March 11th or something around that.
No, but like, as in, because last March, it's still last March. It's just March, like 370 something. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah, it's like, I don't even know like what day it is. Like, it's been a crazy year. But again, really looking forward to getting the community together. Meetups, we have online meetups. Like, I've talked to folks in the Venezuelan and the Latin American community. I think we'll see both, online versions, and then hopefully soon in-person versions of those emerge. Yeah, and I think just generally getting the word out, mentioning it to people, getting excited, reading up about the tech, and telling more people has been hugely helpful. So you guys are already so ahead of the curve. But,
we're trying. Yeah, we actually are connecting to several of the nodes that you were talking about, use cases that we were talking about. So we'll see if we can do more later. And by the way, sorry, I think you were asking about me about the limit that we are setting up for Bitcoin Lightning transaction. It's actually not 0.5. I think I had a twist of tongue, 0.05 Bitcoin.
Yeah, I thought it was that, because I was like, whoa.
It sounds really big.
I thought so. Yeah, no worries.
Losing mind. Okay, so I think we're running out of time quickly.
Yeah, let's go to questions.
Let's open up for questions. Jason, would you be able to help stream some of the questions here?
You're on mute.
You're on mute, Jason.
The evergreen comment of 2021.
You're on mute.
Okay, so we did collect a whole bunch of questions while you guys were chatting. That was great, both of you. I'm just gonna run through these in a bit of a quick hit kind of fashion, so we can get through more of them. So Elizabeth, there's a question about what's the time frame for Lightning PTLC and Li-Fi?
Wow, that's an advanced question.
I know.
So I would suggest talking to the great folks. For those that are interested in PTLC, which is a new type of effectively Lightning transaction format, I would talk to the folks at SuredBits, including a really cool dev there named Nadav Cohen, who's been working on that. And it would take modifications to the Lightning protocol. They're working on some versions, I believe, that involve Schnorr, which is an upgrade to the Bitcoin protocol. But time frame, we shall see. There's some really cool new technologies being working on that they're working on there. And then in terms of Li-Fi, we already have that today. I mean, Lightning Finance, we have a variety of applications people have built on top of it, but discrete log contracts are one technology that also the folks at Shared Bits have been doing really great research on, both the layer 1 version, layer 2. You could have assets on Lightning using that kind of Bitcoin-backed fiat assets, things like that. So it's in R&D mode. We at Lightning Labs have done some interesting internal research on it. But again, much like in the Bitcoin world, 2 weeks, no, just kidding. Not actually 2 weeks. That's just a meme. Yeah.
Thank you.
But there's some cool mailing lists as well. There is a DLC mailing list that the folks at Shared Bits set up, and I would suggest reading up on their blogs for more on PTLCs. Yeah,
the team over there is great. We've been in talks with them too to see how we can support some of that. Awesome. To you, Hong, a question on Lightning functionality on both our API and our app. When is that coming?
Yeah, our team is working on app, hopefully within this month. But again, I think when it comes to development, sometimes the reality is a little bit behind our expectation. But I hope that the app comes later this month. API, it's also in the work. We're updating it, and we'll update the community once we have a sense of timing for that. Working on it.
Got it. So 2 weeks also. All right.
Perpetual answer.
Yeah. It's like the airplane delays. They always just say 30 minutes more, and then it's an update, and it's again 30 minutes. Elizabeth, are there any plans for getting Lightning to run a little bit more easily on Bitcoin nodes like Umbral?
So Umbral has done a great job. They basically have been building out a really cool looking node solution with a lot of fun memes. They are using the APIs. I know they have LND as an option there. I'm not sure what the plans to make it easier would be. Do we have any clarification? I mean, definitely check out what's going on with Umbral. I know a lot of people have been setting up nodes with them. Their Twitter account, whoever writes their tweets, they have some excellent tweets. So I've been following what they're doing there. So yeah, I would just say check it out, read their documentation. We are working on better documentation for developers using LND and the Lightning Labs suite. So yeah, I think we're big fans of their team, and we're talking to them. So we'll do what we can to make it easier.
Great. Maybe this one's primarily to you, Hong, but maybe also Elizabeth, you can chime in. Daniel asks, what's preventing every exchange, from implementing Lightning? Maybe we can walk through some of our challenges. But yeah, why are exchanges have not adopted Lightning yet?
Yeah, I don't think I can speak for other exchanges, and I know that there are some exchanges who have already adopted it, and some are probably in process of doing it. But from our perspective, when we think about the feasibility of making it work for our users, we also need to look at the healthiness of the network and see if after we integrate, whether it actually can bring usability to the community. Obviously, there's a chicken and egg question, right? Because by us participating in it and others participating in it, and actually increase the usability of the network. But for there's that, I think, going on as well. In our situation, I think we look at what's going on and we feel like no matter what, this is the right direction to go. And we feel like, the network is at a point where there's some basic usability there, and us jumping in, hopefully other people joining the community and can help building the network can help accelerate the adoption there. So that would be kind of the high level comment that I would say here. In terms of specific technicality, I think obviously there are a lot of specific considerations that we have to account for. And Jason, you can jump in here if I'm missing anything, but the liquidity point that Elizabeth was mentioning, I think that's definitely something that we need to consider. How many nodes that we want to proactively connect to and actually park liquidity in those nodes, and make sure that there is actually a way to for us to find the routes efficiently to make the transaction work. And again, huge kudos to Elizabeth's team, Lightning Labs. They're building a fantastic products there. We're using some of that, and hopefully there are more that is already in the toolbox that we'll probably be exploring later. So I think it's continuous development and also continuous adoption momentum showing up, and then I think more and more will be naturally drawn into it. And the other factor, I think, external factor is also Bitcoin price. I think as Bitcoin price continue to grow, and if when we see higher on-chain transaction fees and quote unquote congestion on the network, more people will probably start to think about what's alternative out there. And Lightning is obviously one viable alternative for small amount transactions. So that would be my take.
Yeah, no, that's really awesome to hear from an exchange CEO. I was also going to mention the fee situation. At Lightning Labs, one of our theories was that as fees go up, we will see greater exchange adoption, and that actually has borne out to be true thus far. And with the recent price spike in Bitcoin, you have this double whammy of not only are fees going up in terms of sats because there's a greater demand with more transactions, but then the fiat value of those fees are also going up. So I do believe when the mempool is cleared and when demand is not that high, well, there isn't necessarily as much of a forcing function to move transactions off to layer 2. But now things are very different. So we've seen folks that maybe a couple of months ago even were thinking, oh, we'll do this later, this is really interesting. Now they're like, fees are going up, what do we do? And things have changed dramatically. So yeah, sometimes you just need a forcing function to do it. They're also, in the case of certain exchanges, they might have had various kind of other assets, tokens that they've added. And with in some cases they're getting paid for that, right? With Lightning, we're saying, no, this is good for Bitcoin and this is good for your end users, but it's a different value proposition, I'd say. But now, as the usage of Bitcoin increases, as users want lower fees, as users want instant transacting, that value proposition, I'd say, has greatly increased. We at Lightning Labs, before Wumbo channels, also when you didn't have these larger channels, it was also a harder thing for exchanges if you could only have very small amounts. So as that amount increases, both because it's funny, the limits that we used to have were, of course, Bitcoin denominated, but the fiat value has gone up as well. But today, one BTC channel, whereas like mere months ago it was 10,000 USD, now it's 50,000. So the ability to transact in larger amounts, I'd say, is also much more appealing. And we've heard that from a variety of exchanges we've talked to. And then, as mentioned, the emerging market exchanges and use cases, we've seen a lot of interest for that, especially because of the fee pressure coming with heightened on-chain fees. So the way that I see it, a lot of the early developers, and shout out to river.com, since I'd say their beta, they've had Lightning integration. They were able to build it from the ground up. LN Markets, quite a few others there. Some of the newer devs have just built Lightning in from the get-go, and we will continue to see that emerge. But it's been really exciting to see Okcoin, Bitfinex. I know Kraken has announced, they're working on it. Shout out to Pierre Rochard over there, who's been an incredible ambassador to the community, Paxful, and quite a few others. So we'll just see more.
I think this year we will definitely see a huge uptake.
The forcing function has emerged.
There is economic incentive out there.
Yes, and incentives matter, right?
And we've been in talks with some of the names that you've mentioned, and the one thing that I have to note is how helpful everyone is in sharing their experiences, especially some of the Bitfinex guys. Sharing their experiences, how to make best practices and everything, super helpful in allowing us to basically get up and running faster. So I think we're
the community that we're talking about.
Yeah, like the Lightning community has amazing people, and everyone wants to help each other out, and it really has that spirit that I miss in terms of our events and meetups and conferences. But we have the online version for now, and I'm sure we'll get everyone back together soon.
There is a question on the conference, actually. When is the Lightning conference? This is from Eski from Twitter.
Oh, when is the next one?
Yeah, when is the next one?
As soon as we can have it. No, we shall see. I hope Eski can DJ. I believe Eski is a jungle DJ, so we can try to work that out as well. I know there were some streaming stats on the Sphinx app. I at this point, I think it's waiting for, things like vaccines and getting the world back to somewhat of whatever normal means. So I don't know exactly when, but it will definitely happen again. And I cannot wait to see everyone in person sooner rather than later.
I think we all share the excitement for that.
Yeah.
And I just like to just a couple wrap-up questions, really. One is, where can, there's a bunch of questions around how can I get more information, right? How can I learn more about Lightning, how to set up my own Lightning node, Lightning pool, just learning about Lightning and what apps to use. How do I earn sats using Lightning? Are there places that you, both of you, like to look at to point users to for information?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question and one that I care a lot about. And honestly, if there are members of the community out there that want to create a bitcoin.org style site for Lightning that, talks about all the options, all the implementations, like what the technology is, what the use cases are, etc. We desperately need that because right now, a lot of the information is in many different places. So, it is useful to have a resource that can aggregate that. So I would encourage members of the community, if somebody wants to build out an informational site and then keep it updated because things change so quickly. And that's one of the things I love about working in this space. It's like, oh, this thing happened. And then you're like, oh, wait, now this update to that thing happened. So at Lightning Labs, we have a newsletter, lightninglabs.substack.com, called the Lightning Lab, that highlights a lot of the ecosystem updates, like the use cases, the community members. For those that are looking to delve into the technicals, there is the specification for the protocol, the Bolt spec, but that's going to be for the dev world and the dev community. We're also working, stay tuned over the next month or two, on many more resources to make it much easier to get started with a node. Because right now, for example, Ride the Lightning, Umbral, Thunder Hub, there are all these great solutions that people use, but like all the resources are on their respective, say, GitHub pages or websites or things like that. There are also a lot of communities. There are Slack communities, Telegram communities. So it's quite decentralized, and there's some benefit to decentralization, but I do think we need to make it easier to find a lot of those resources. Podcasts, there's Lightning Junkies is a podcast devoted to Lightning, which is awesome. There are a variety of folks in the Lightning community going on a whole host of podcasts lately. I know Marty Bent has actually been writing about Lightning a lot in his newsletter. Ellen Markets has an excellent newsletter. Definitely check theirs out, subscribe. They're really good at that. Yeah, it's Twitter. I mean, it's like, well, follow like these several hundred Twitter accounts. But yeah, there's a lot out there. I don't know, Hong, if you have ideas. Oh, also there's a book that Lalu, our CTO, Andreas Antonopoulos, and Renee Pickard are working on called Mastering the Lightning Network. There's a version up on GitHub, and it'll be published hopefully this year with O'Reilly. So for those, again, looking to learn more about the technology, that book will be coming out soon. Hong, do you have suggestions, thoughts, ideas?
No, I really don't have anything new to add. We'll see on our end what we can do to gather some of the information and kind of help present it to the community. But to your point, I think it's a very much community effort. So there are a lot of
it's a little chaotic. It's decentralized. It's like, oh, this thing popped up on Twitter and this meme is happening, and then there's this Discord. Oh, for Lightning Labs, for our LND implementation, we're starting a new developer office hours tomorrow. At, I believe it's 10 a.m. Pacific time, so same time as this event, 1 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central European time, to try to get all those time zones together. And then there is a weekly Clubhouse room. Lynn Alden will be joining us this week. I believe it's at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific this Wednesday. Excited to chat with our community. So yeah, it's constantly evolving. I'd say there are also IRC channels. There's a developer Slack for LND. There are a variety of Lightning protocol and dev IRC channels, old school. But yeah, I think we need some kind of aggregation of these resources. Oh yeah, also shout out to Radar. They put together a really great, they call ION, set of Lightning related resources. So the community has done a great job, but if folks want to build out that kind of place where people can go to learn more and get started and to aggregate it, I'm very interested in that project. So, and then also translation, I think is key as we bring Bitcoin to this next billion, these are not going to all be English speakers. So, looking at a variety of languages, I think Chinese can be really interesting, translating things into Spanish and a whole host of other languages there as well.
Yeah, I remember us talking about a little bit about that. That would be super helpful. Okay, just you mentioned Clubhouse, Elizabeth, and ironically, that was a question that someone asked too. And so we will take that, what did you say, Wednesday, 4 p.m.
Yeah.
The question specifically was from 8,000 milestone. Would you both be able to join Clubhouse and chat more? I think they just want to hear more from both of you.
I was
in attendance at our weekly Clubhouse room, and it's funny because I feel like she's listening, and then we put her on stage. And
I was just listening. I was just learning, and then I was
tell us what the latest is. And no, it's awesome.
I was literally the second one. I was literally in the kitchen, and I was dragged. And I was like, okay, God, find a place.
Hey, this is like modern, 2021 life, right? So yeah. There's that. And then also, Clubhouse is iOS only. I'm not even really an iOS user. So we have Discord where we're setting things up for developer voice chats and things like that. We're also considering doing some things on Twitch, very open to ideas from the community as well.
Cool. And, we'll wrap it up. We went a little over, but
is there like one last question maybe? Like, is there?
Yeah, no, this question is just really, how do people get in touch with you guys?
Okay, so we're at Lightning for Lightning Labs on Twitter. I'm at Starkness. I have a variety of imposter accounts. Those aren't me on Twitter as well. So feel free to DM us at Lightning. Starkness on Twitter. Join the L&D developer Slack if you want to develop applications. Check out this new Discord. We just tweeted it. So if you just go to @twitter.com/lightning, you can see the new developer office hours that are starting tomorrow. As mentioned, there's the Clubhouse. Sign up for the Substack, lightninglabs.substack.com. I mean, we're online.
Yeah.
We're on a variety of platforms.
Highly do recommend the newsletter. It's packed with information. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And Hong, for you,
shout out to Brian Gentry, Desiree Dickerson on our team who've been working tirelessly on that. And then I'm like, no, this meme. I'm like, change this meme. We have a lot of memes in there.
And Hong, how do people get in touch with you?
I am also on Twitter at HFangCA, and my DM is open. Welcome feedback, thoughts, and you can also DM us at Okcoin on Twitter as well.
And then lightning.engineering for the Lightning Labs website. And as mentioned, we are hiring. We have a whole host of job postings up there, everything from developer to designer to chief of staff. If you want to work directly with me, things are super exciting right now. Like there's nothing else I'd want to be doing with my time. The future of Bitcoin and Lightning is incredibly bright. And now we're building this foundational technology for the world. So the next couple of years are going to be massive in terms of the potential we're building out here.
We are definitely in a very defining moment of history. So very exciting. Great.
Well, I think that's it. That's it for us on our side. Thank you, Elizabeth, for joining us, and thank you, Hong, for taking both of you taking time out today. We'll put notes on the links that we talked about, that you guys talked about, probably in the Twitter, and then we'll hopefully see you both at a Clubhouse then.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm so psyched about the progress that you've made. You're really awesome stewards of the community, and I can't wait to hang out in person at some point.
This will happen this year. I'm sure this will happen in 2021, not in Clubhouse, not on the Zoom. Thank you, Elizabeth.
All right, thank you.
Yeah,
take care.
And number of people go up. Can't wait.